I'm Tracy, horticulturist and team leader at Rogers Gardens, and today we're in Huntington Beach meeting with Denise Sheldon and Karina with the Plant Nerd to see the 2015 California Friendly Garden Design winner. So Denise, what did your landscape look like before you guys got started?
So before this, it was grass, it was palm trees, it was not very appealing. There was really no place to sit out here, so it was time for a change, and I was tired of the maintenance.
So how has the neighborhood responded to this change in your landscape?
The neighbors love this yard. They have come by, they take pictures, they ask me about the yard and what kind of maintenance it takes, and I've met people I've never met in the neighborhood before. It's a real draw, and it's just a lot of fun.
If you were going to make a case for converting your landscape into a garden like this, how would you convince someone to do it?
I think I would tell them that besides the fact that it's drought tolerant, low water, low maintenance, one of the huge benefits of this yard is all the pollinators that come to the yard. So we have hummingbirds, and I can't even tell you how many monarchs and butterflies come through. It's just beautiful. It really is something to see, and I love it. I think a landscaper or a designer really helps you plant the right plants in the right spot, the colors, and really the flow of the yard, and having it have some movement to it. So I really think it was the best money I ever spent, best check I ever wrote.
So Karina, the original owner and founder of the Plant Nerd, how did you visualize this garden?
Well, when I first met Denise, one of the first things we talked about was how she wanted to utilize the space. And she had an existing concrete walkway sort of going through this area here. But her entrance to her front door was all through her driveway. And one of the first things that we like to do is separate the garden, especially if you're taking out lawn, which is the goal here, separate the entrance to the front from the driveway. So we created a walkway going through the garden. And we created a living space out here using gravel, crested gravel. And when we do something like this, we have to displace a lot of soil. So when we displace that soil, what we do is, instead of moving it off the property and dumping it, is we'll build berms. And so we created a berm out in front and then on the other side of the walkway, so that this living space feels nestled in the garden instead of just a flat garden all the way down. That topography really helps create the space. Then the plant material that we use, creating height and elevation, is what gives this little seating area out here some privacy. And my feedback that I've gotten from Denise about this landscape and what this has done to her social life with her neighbors has been probably the best compliment we could have. She says it's changed her life. When we created this berm out front and brought the size or the height of the living space down here, and then planted that almost like a hillside, that created a natural fence and a natural barrier between the street and the living space.
So Karina, what are some of your favorite plants to design with?
Well, we used a lot of those in Denise's garden. First of all, I love the Palo Verde tree. I like the interesting bark for sure. It's got a green bark. It's one tree out of thousands that actually photosynthesizes through its trunk, which I think is really fascinating. We also used an assortment of different varieties of sages and aloes and echeverias. Those three groupings of plants you see used throughout this landscape. A couple varieties of senecio that were unique. Some calandrina, which obviously sends out a huge amount of blooms, and isn't that impressive in the nursery when it's not in bloom, but it was in bloom at the time, and so we ended up adding that into the garden as well.
So what's the best time to see this garden in bloom?
The good news is any time of year this will be a beautiful, interesting garden. We have used an assortment of sages and succulents and different types of plants that actually have a long-term blooming cycle, and also foliar interest. So even if it's not in bloom, it's still going to be interesting throughout the year. Textural plants like agaves, and then foliar plants like the coleonema, golden sunset. So we also picked a couple of deciduous trees around the front of the house. One is the Cercis forest pansy, and the other one is the Caesalpinia, which is the Mexican bird of paradise. The reason we chose those is in the summertime, they're going to offer some shade for the house, but in the wintertime when they defoliate, they're actually going to bring some warmth into the house simply by allowing the sunlight to come through. So really those are the only two deciduous trees we have in the landscape.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you irrigate the shrubs versus the trees and what's entailed in this garden?
Sure. Well, the good news is Denise already had her own irrigation system from her previous landscape, and we were able to retrofit and use her valves and even her lateral lines to irrigate everything. I think she had 3 valves originally, so we only used 2 of them because one, the other side of the driveway already had its own valve, but everything is irrigated at the same rate and with the same amount of water. Her exposure doesn't change throughout the year because her house faces east, so it gets all the morning sun, all the midday sun year round. And so we are able to put everything on the same drip system, and we run it about 50 minutes, I think on the onset of the landscape twice a week, and probably down to once a week this time of year, and in the wintertime maybe once a month.
Thanks to Denise and Karina, we just learned what it takes to convert a once boring and tired looking lawn into a beautiful California-friendly landscape that you can sit and enjoy, meet your neighbors, see some pollinators, and completely reduce your water bill. All you have to do is convert your irrigation system to a low water drip system or a low water system, change to California-friendly plants, maybe move a little earth and create some berming for some privacy, and you can have a beautiful garden that pushes that 35% water savings out the window and moves way closer to 85% water savings on that existing landscape. You can have a beautiful garden like this. Just work with a horticulturist at Rogers Gardens and we can get you on the right track towards a very beautiful garden just like this.